right, we'll wait for Bob to walk in. Good morning. My name is Rich Sauls. I am the Governing Board Liaison to the Worship Committee and your Worship Associate for today. Welcome to First Parish. Whether you are here in the meeting house with us or virtually on Zoom, wave to the Zoom folks. Thank you for being here. As Unitarian Universalists, we are a people of diverse beliefs, but we share a common faith, a faith that every person is worthy of love, that what we do in and for this world matters, and that we are connected by an interdependent web to one another and to the earth. So whoever you are, whoever you love, and however you make meaning out of the world around us, you are welcome here. You are welcome to join us in helping to create a world of inclusion, safety, and love for us all. Our guest preacher today is Reverend Sarah Person, a retired Unitarian Universalist minister from Middleborough, Mass., married mother of two. She serves as a member of the Ballou Channing Chapter Leadership Council of the Unitarian Universalist MA. She's a good officer and a mentor as well. During the past decade, Reverend Person has also served congregations in the New England region of the UUA as part of the group of peer facilitators. You may also recall that she was here for Reverend Emily's installation. It was the September 11th, 2001 attack that propelled Rev Person into ministry. She has never looked back and continues to find this calling to be as deeply joyous as it is challenging, complex, and transformative.
My opening words this morning are by Margaret Williams Braxton. And I'd like you to turn to your orders of service. We're going to do this responsively. And would you like to share in the reading?
No,
Okay.
I'll do the bold part.
All right.
Because I can see it.
Okay. And would you like to light the chalice first? Thank you. Once upon a time I was, now I am.
Someday I will become.
Once there was, and now there is.
Soon there will be, and someday there surely shall be.
Once upon a time we were, now we are.
And someday, hallelujah, we shall surely become.
Our chalice lighting this morning is by the First Parish, Bedford, Massachusetts, coming of age participants. Rebecca Pankhurst was one of them. And this is what they wrote together. This light unites us. This light unites us with our neighbors, our friends, and our enemies. Most importantly, this light unites us with ourselves, our hearts, our souls, our spirits. This light unites us. I invite you to rise in body or in spirit for our opening hymn, hymn number 1058. It's called Be Ours a Religion, and we're going to sing it through twice. Which like sunshine As we enter.
When we give, we say yes to something we value. In this congregation, we take up an offering each week to say yes to the values of our UU faith and yes to this beloved community. Please give as you are able. Today's offering will be gratefully received. The offertory is Autumn Vesper by Emily Bronde and Snyder. Impressive as always. Our reading this morning is an excerpt from Fractals, the relationship between small and large. by Adrienne Marie Brown. A fractal is a never-ending pattern. Fractals are infinitely complex patterns that are self-similar across different scales. How we are at the small scale is how we are at the large scale. These patterns emerge at the local, regional, state, and global level, basically wherever two or more change agents are gathered. There's so much awareness around it and some beautiful work happening to shift organizational cultures. And this may be the most important element to understand, that what we practice at the small scale sets the patterns for the whole system. In a fractal conception, I am a cell-sized unit of the human organism, and I have to use my life to leverage a shift in the system by how I am, as much as with the things I do. This means actually being in life, and it means bringing my values into my daily decision-making. Each day should be lived on purpose. I am learning to engage in a generative conflict, to say no, to feel my limits, taking time to feel my heartache when it comes. From living in the past of the planet we call the US, from interpersonal trauma or grief, from movement losses. It has meant learning to work collaboratively. At a collective level, this is the invitation to practice the world we wish to see in the current landscape. Yes, resist the onslaught of oppression, but measure our success not just by what we stop, but by how many of us feel and can say, I am living a life I don't regret, a life that will resonate with my ancestors. And with as many generations forward as I can imagine, I am attending to the crisis of my time with my best self. I am of the communities that are doing our collective best to honor our ancestors and all humans to come.
Thank you, Rich. Before I begin, I have a few questions for you. First of all, who will admit to enjoying watching robot wars and battle bots? I'm not talking about them today. But I am going to talk about youth, perpetual youth, and also innovation, technology. I'm going to talk about STEM, and for those of you who aren't teachers, STEM is an acronym for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And I firmly believe that that is the ultimate cure for what ails us, if we can just get out of the way of the youth and the engineers and the mathematicians and the scientists and the techno geeks and let them help us heal the world. I am going to be talking about healing the world this morning. Tikkun Olam. I feel I must offer a disclaimer. I have no aptitude for things mechanical, technical, or programmable, but I do have much imagination and appreciation. My spouse is the opposite. He is always curious about how things work, which apparently is important to knowing how to fix them. I cannot troubleshoot when things break down because I take it personally. The damn devices are out to get me, and always will be. Actually, when I think of it, most of my family is the opposite from me, and it's a good thing because that's why I am able to function in the modern world. So I'm sure that my husband and my kids are amused to think that I'm actually preaching about STEM this morning and innovative design and engineering. But the thing is, I'm not exactly. I'm talking about the innovators and imagination made real, and change agents and nurturing them, and how some ideas will foster great progress and others will foster great harm. Now, if you prefer to read something while kind of listening to the sermon, I invite you to read the two-page handout that you got this morning, because it's actually probably just going to lay out everything that I was going to tell you anyway. It's written by Dean Kamen, who is the co-founder of First Robotics, and that's what we're going to talk about today. He wrote this right after October 7th of 2023, and I'd like you to keep that in mind as you read what his response was to that atrocity. I like Adrienne Marie Brown's idea of being a cell-sized unit of the human organism, that she has to live her life to leverage a shift in the system by how I am as much as the things I do. It kind of takes our principles, doesn't it? And moves that needle a bit closer to purposes and action. On September 26th, I was sitting next to my husband in the Pan-Athenaic Stadium in Athens. My tush was resting on a marble bleacher. The stadium had been renovated entirely in marble around 144 of the Common Era. And it was renovated so that 50,000 Athenians and others from the different city-states could watch the very first Olympic Games. So here we were, 1,980 years later, surrounded by rock music, light displays, big screens, and more than 1,000 kids. Luckily, marble is excellent at withstanding vibrations. The teens paraded, they danced, the flags waving. Lots of them were dressed in their country's traditional clothes, and their glee was absolutely palpable and exhilarating. You know, the whole entire week was exhilarating. So, FIRST, and FIRST is an acronym for Inspiration and Recognition of Science and Technology. So this was the outset of a first global challenge. This is an Olympic-style international robotics competitive and collaborative effort that takes place in a different country each year and has been going on for the past 7 years. FIRST is a foundation that's actually older than that. Dean Kamen created it in 1989, I think. And in 1992, he and this wonderful, well-known MIT professor named Woody Flowers collaborated in actually creating this program that would encourage kids to be interested in STEM and have a heck of a lot of fun while they were at it. So at first they started with the teenagers, First Robotics, but then they kind of went on to the younger kids. And you may have heard of Lego Leagues. Anybody heard of the Lego Leagues? Yes, so some of the teachers do, some parents or grandparents of the younger kids It's a really fun competition. And so you've got your 4 to 6-year-olds, you've got your K through 12 kids, and something fun for all of them to do in a competitive way and subsidized. That's actually a great deal of effort on their part and a great deal of fun. So this year in Athens, there were teams from 193 different countries. They represented first and second and third world countries. And it was, I'd love at some point to hear the stories from the kids about what that was like getting to Athens, much less, what it was like in their own countries getting involved in this. So some countries were able to send their teams despite being under armed conflict. There were teams from the Ukraine, from Palestine, from Haiti, from Israel, from Burkina Faso, from Sudan, from Turkey, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Mali, India, China, and many others. Some teams were forced to stay behind, or they were issued kind of last-minute restrictions. And one team from Sudan, of the entire team, only 2 were allowed to come to Athens, a brother and a sister. And, it would have been absolutely impossible for them to actually fully do all the prep that they had to do and compete with just 2 kids. But when the other teams heard about it, there was a team of, I think I saw 4 boys from Poland that basically sat down and helped them do everything while the rest of their team worked on their stuff. And they did this because, in a way, that is exactly what this event was all about. So let me tell you a little bit about FIRST Robotics. They organize these things for kids. They always like to have local community investment. So they will provide the kids who have to register for this support. They'll give them the kit so that they can, of materials so that they can build them. But the kids in their communities, they need to provide mentors to help them with this. They need to raise money, for these kits and for everything else. And if they move through the competitive process, then they need support to travel. This has been going on, like I said, basically since the early 90s. And in, I think it was 2017, Dean Kamen and Woody Flowers decided to expand this internationally. So there had been some countries like Canada and some other countries that had also had their own teams and competitions in their own countries, and they would also get together with the US kids. But this was the first time that they decided they really wanted to reach out. Dean Kamen, for those of you who aren't familiar with him, and I knew absolutely nothing about him until Alan went to work on as an evaluator for one of his projects. And then I heard a lot more about him because one of my colleagues from Boston University actually left Kamen's. She was an administrator for him, and she left him and went to seminary. I don't know if he drove her to that or what, but she had a lot of stories about the guy. He is a force of nature. He is, he's got probably over 1,000 patents. He's an entrepreneur. He's an inventor who is specifically reaching out to create things that are going to make life easier for us. He's got medical patents. He's got water desalination patents. He's got all of these different things that basically are aimed for a purpose to make the world a better place. He started off, he went to high school. I can't imagine what it must have been like for him all through his school years, being a young kid, a Jewish kid. He's kind of small, but very wiry and very intense. And he finished high school, but the last couple of years of high school and the first couple of years that he went actually to college, he had been asked by all kinds of folks in the area, from corporations to communities. Could he come up with an idea to solve this? Could he come up with an idea to solve that? So by the time he's in college, folks, he was probably pulling down about $60,000 a year, from his inventions and consultations. So surprise, surprise, he didn't actually finish college, but he went out and he started inventing. And while all this was going on, he's in the garage with his older brother, Barton, and the two of them created like a different kind of pump, like a diffusion pump, infusion pump, one of the two, that was adopted as a standard by the medical community in dispensing things like, insulin and things like that. His brother went on to become a pediatric oncologist, and also he was very, very prominent in the medical field. And Dean went off and just kept inventing things. But Dean had an obligation, I think, that was driving him to help not only nurture STEM development and interest in the next generation, but I think because he had so much going on inside of him as a teen, I think he wanted to generate that kind of energy in the next generations that were following him. Because right off the bat, he decides to make this fun, energetic, exciting, but not, and I repeat, not violent. So he created First Global with a focus on planting a seed in every country to make STEM available to youth everywhere. Same pattern, have one team represent the entire nation, and he wanted to focus the world, get so much attention on this. He wanted to focus the world on the amazing things that happen when kids from every country work together to solve problems. I can't speak as to what in particular and what in their backgrounds was driving Dean Kamen and Woody Flowers and the other heavy hitters in the science and technology industry to support this, to support it to the extent that they have. But when I was doing my research, I found that there were some things that they all had in common. One was they had disabilities or serious illness as kids. Dean Kamen was dyslexic. He was profoundly dyslexic. He accomplished so much in spite of this. Woody Flowers fell out of a tree, I think when he was 7 years old, and he injured his elbow so badly that it never really healed properly. In addition, Flowers was in a very, very bad car accident when he was 17 years old. The other car came at them at 100 miles an hour and rammed straight in. He survived, but a few of his friends did not. So he developed a true loathing for machines bashing into each other, and he was not going to be a part of that. One of the things that made me curious was I'm seeing that we've got teams from Haiti, from Burkina Faso, from all these tiny countries, and I was trying to figure out how did this work? How did this happen? So I did interview Alan, and he did tell me a bit about how how this works. So FIRST still operates primarily in the US. They do outreach to other countries, but it's still, FIRST does most of their activities here and has the infrastructure here for that. They get the news out about what they're doing through teachers, through the media, through the schools, and they also reach out to corporate sponsors, and this is really key. So teams form, they register, they pay, they get the kit, the opportunity to participate in the fees do differ by program, so they're not horribly expensive for the little kids in the Lego League. And the higher level teams right now do end up reaching out to sponsors. And some of them have gotten grants from NASA. And there's a lot of community involvement. I mean, even adults who aren't technologically adept can mentor teams, because it's not just technology that's driving this. It's an attitude toward life, an attitude and a vision that runs counter to a lot of the other influences that exist in our society. So for the overseas teams, some do get support from their local education ministers or the national education ministers. And so they also raise funds, but there are also corporate sponsors that will help out these international kids. When they reach out to other countries, they want to identify one local partner that's going to basically help organize and represent the whole concept of this to the nation and to the kids. So then I was asking myself, what is driving them? What is driving them to do this thing in particular? And it really is a firm belief that things are going haywire and that they want to help people thrive, whether it be food, water, climate. They want to alleviate major challenges for people with disabilities. One of Dean Kamen's inventions was a wheelchair that could rise up so that when the person is in the wheelchair, they're having an eye-to-eye conversation with the one they're talking to, and still be mobile and balanced properly. That's the iBot. They want to develop, and this is kind of counter to today's world, they want to develop empathy in the kids. They want the kids to be able to grasp what it is that other people, strangers, other countries, are dealing with, and ultimately to form a commitment to helping them. They want to foster this idea of collaborating, not competing, collaborating with each other to make things work. And finally, they want to help detach our younger generation from parochialism and partisanship and this idea that they are not members of a global society. So why is this important? FDR once said, "We cannot build the future for our youth, but we can build our youth for the future." There were ideas then, and there are ideas now that suffocate our humanity. They suffocate our humanity as surely as a raised voice or a raised fist. These are the ideas about what's the real world. The world is us versus them. Or if they get more, we'll get less. We'll lose out. Ideas like there always have to be winners and losers in order for things to work the way they're supposed to. The really ancient idea that might makes right. And another ancient idea that it's always been this way, so don't trust change. And there's another idea that the truth is only okay if it doesn't challenge belief. And the one I hate the most, that collateral damage is accessible and acceptable. These ideas are sustained by fear and history, and if not history, then just willful ignorance. And I think those ideas are killing all of us. They are starving all of us. They are stealing the future from all of us. And it doesn't have to be this way. I think that was the glorious light bulb that went off in my head when I'm sitting on that marble bench. It doesn't have to be this way, this world. And these ideas are actually holding our children back. If they are going to thrive, if they are going to have a future, much less if we are going to have a future, we have to give them better ideas. We need to create safe spaces physically, educationally, socially, culturally, for them to explore possibilities and exceed the boundaries of our fears. Now, right now, at least 110, some estimate about 120 countries are engaged in armed conflicts, either kind of within their borders or with other nations. The children in Athens have already returned home. And some of them are returning, and they're under immediate threat by what's going on in their countries. And I hold that up in my mind as I look at their pictures, at their faces, at the conversations that we had. Someone named L.R. Knost wrote, "It's not our job to toughen our children up to face a cruel and heartless world. It is our job to raise children who will make the world a little less cruel and heartless." So after October 7th, Dean came and wrote his Declaration of Interdependence, word that should be familiar to all of us, and its accompanying Bill of Responsibilities. He lays out in these words exactly the vision that's been driving him and others like him all these decades. It is an absolute refutation of the roots of violence and the ideas that suffocate our humanity. It was created in time for all parties from the 193 countries to sign. So I think I'd love to talk with you about what it is going on in your life that makes you think, well, maybe it doesn't have to be this way. So I hope we get a chance at coffee hour. But I'd like you to think back on your life Think of yourself as that single cell in the human organism that perhaps used the first tool, the lever, to move the world. How would you have used it then, your younger self? How would you use it now? How would you use your love, your legacy, to change the world if you could? Have you always had an invention in mind? Or is there something that you would want to support, something that you would want to write, speak, something to change in yourself, a way to help others, whatever it is, whatever it is. I think be inspired to go for it. So, because it's been on your mind, I just want to share with you some awards. Team Moldova won 2 gold medals, including the first global winning alliance with China, Madagascar, and the Cook Islands. Team Mexico won the Albert Einstein Award, which is given to the team with the best performing robots and who best exemplify the first global community. Team United Arab Emirates won a silver medal. And just as an aside, I wanted to let you know that this team, and possibly this robot, developed a program to detect microplastics in food, which is a real issue there, and for us as well. And finally, my favorite, Haiti. Team Haiti, a team of 5 teenagers, won 2 awards and were among the top 10 innovators in the world. And considering, everything else that's been in the media, I was absolutely delighted to hear that result. Thank you for listening. And I look forward to talking with you if you want to share something that sparked a memory for you. Thank you.
As we bring our service to a close, there are a couple of announcements to share. You are all invited to welcome and join us after the service across the street at the Beale House. If you're visiting, please be sure to check out our info island. It has a very catching sign now. Sign up for the newsletter, learn more about who we are. On Sunday, November 7th at 5 p.m. in the Beale House, Reverend Emily and Laura Sanda will be offering a family worship service. Open to all. We'll gather for a 30-minute kid-friendly program and then have dinner together hosted by our RE program. There was an announcement in the newsletter, a link to RSVP. This will continue up until then. So check it out, share it with others, particularly other families and so on. Now, please rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn, There Is More Love, number 95 in the gray hymnal.
I'm gonna keep on. two homes to go to. That's the bargain center.
That's a good thing you made the switch from the October 5th.
Yes, thanks, yeah. That's a
I
good.
should, are you gonna go?
Yes.
Okay, because I gotta ask you some advice. We're going to Dublin in 2 weeks, so.
All right.